Fox 29 political analyst Bruce Gordon joins me now to break it all down. Hey, Bruce, good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
Appreciate you getting up with us. You know, one of the challenges with really controversial or emotional rulings is they often come with a lot of misinformation. So can you start by just kind of explaining specifically what the ruling actually means? The ruling itself didn't ban abortion.
No, what it basically says is there is not a constitutional right to an abortion. This is an issue best left to the states, and each state will adjudicate this in the way they see fit. This is an issue that has been obviously incredibly controversial long before Roe v. Wade back in 1973. It has been a very controversial issue. Each state has a different view of it. As your graphic just illustrated, there are states that have already put legislation into place, understanding that this ruling might very well come. That basically the legislation said as soon as Roe versus Wade is overturned, our state ban on abortion will kick in. So we've got states like that. On the other hand, you have states that have codified a right to abortion either legislatively or in their state constitution. So what this does is essentially send it back to the states. As you accurately pointed out, New Jersey, Delaware, likely no change out of all this. But you mentioned Pennsylvania, excuse me, and that's the big story here. The legislature in Pennsylvania, as we all know, is controlled by the Republicans, both in the state House and the state Senate. They are almost certain to pass some sort of either restriction or outright legislation, as all legislation does, goes to the governor's desk. Tom Wolf, of course, has made very clear he would veto legislation like that. But, of course, he's term limited. Come November, there'll be an election, and come January, we will have a new governor in Pennsylvania. The Republican nominee, Doug Mastriano, has made very clear he would sign an abortion restriction or ban into law. The Democrat, Josh Shapiro, makes very clear he would veto it. So this governor's race come November becomes incredibly consequential on this issue alone, above and beyond all the other issues that are important.
So in Pennsylvania, as you started to explain, it's not an overstatement to say that whether or not abortion is legal in Pennsylvania hinges almost directly on the upcoming gubernatorial election.
Oh, it couldn't be more clear. That is absolutely the case, because that legislation is certainly coming from the legislature that, again, would either severely restrict or eliminate the right to an abortion altogether. Let's be very clear. This legislation, even where it might be banning abortion in states, is not going to end abortion. It's simply going to mean that in many cases women will either go to, quote unquote, illegal means to get an abortion, or they will travel to states where an abortion is legal. The impact there, likely, for example, we expect Ohio and West Virginia to wind up banning abortion. That would send women from those states potentially to western Pennsylvania, where, again, at the moment anyway, and for the foreseeable future, it is still legal. But that would send those women from West Virginia and Ohio, for example, into western Pennsylvania. There are relatively few abortion clinics in the western half of Pennsylvania. The vast majority are in the eastern half. So we could see that kind of cross-state situation. And if you don't have the money to do that, then you've got other options, that are very draconian.
Bruce, one of the things, again, when we talk about emotion and potential misinformation, there are a lot of discussions about the concerning precedent that at least Justice Thomas thinks that this ruling implied. Will they now go back and challenge gay marriage? Will they now go back and challenge the right to contraception? How do you interpret that, the precedent that's being set based on Justice Thomas's statements?
Well, it's certainly concerning, at least to some folks in this country. There are plenty of other folks who think this would be a great thing if those issues were revisited. So far, we've seen nothing from the other 8 members of the court to suggest that they are specifically on board with Justice Thomas. But it is interesting that he viewed this as sort of a first step and not a last step, that there are other issues that he believes should be revisited that were erroneously ruled on in the first place. What's fascinating about all of this is that, remember, this was a case that the justices said all along when they were in their confirmation hearings, yes, this is settled law, but clearly they believed it was settled incorrectly, just as there have been cases in the past that were believed to be settled incorrectly and ultimately overturned. That's how they viewed Roe v. Wade. And so, sure enough, settled law becomes unsettled law. There's a lot of turmoil due ahead in this case on this issue. Absolutely no question about it. But again, that November election is going to be massive now. Turnout, I would expect to be goosed in a big way because of this ruling.
Bruce, we always appreciate, we're going to be hearing from you consistently because this is continuing to move forward. But thank you for explaining it to us. We will check back with you shortly.